Hey, it's Angie from Block 81, and in today's video I'm going to go over favicons. Now, favicons are something that a lot of designers and developers either overthink or completely forget about, and so I'm actually going to go over my workflow on how to create them. Let's get started. So the very first step is actually determining whether or not you have a good enough logo to create a favicon. So what I have here are 4 different logos that demonstrate different types of logos that don't necessarily lend themselves to be good candidates for favicons. There might be a part of it that is good for a favicon, there might not be. So let's go ahead and start with this first one. So this is going to be real simple. We're just going to need to pull this icon and use that as a favicon. That's pretty straightforward. We don't need to include the text because it's just going to be way too small for the favicon. The next one is this International Mega Standard placeholder dummy logo. Now, this is a really complex logo and it's going to make for a terrible favicon. So we need to figure out how we can pull some element out of here for the favicon. The next one is this logo ipsum. It's kind of too complex for a favicon. And the last one is a purely typographic logo. I have no idea what ZTOS or ZTOS is. It's just made up. But I think this is easy enough to kind of figure out. With that in mind, let's go ahead and edit these and get the actual icon portion for the favicon. So for Avon, I'm gonna open this up in Affinity Photo. This one's, like I said at the beginning, it's pretty easy. So what we need to do is just crop it. So we're gonna select this crop. And first of all, we wanna make sure that it's the right size. So it's telling me right up here that the crop is gonna be 600 by 600, and that's perfect. So I'm just gonna move this over and hit return. And I don't think that cut anything off, but let's double check. Yeah, I think that's fine. So now what I'm going to do, I'm not going to save it. I'm actually going to export it. So I'm going to choose export here, and I want to actually export it as a PNG. I want that background transparency. Now, this isn't going to be possible with every logo. So if you have doubts, just use a white background. Here, I'm just going to go ahead and leave 600 by 600. That's fine because the minimum should be 512 by 512. So I'm going to go ahead and export this, and I'm just going to put it here, and we'll just rename it to cropped and save that there. Okay, so that one's done. We don't need to save this one. So let's go back to the Finder and we'll take a look at this one. Now this is an SVG, so let's see if it even opens in Affinity Photo. It does. It's pretty small. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to open this up in Affinity Designer. Okay, so now that looks a lot better. And so what I want to do is see if there's something that I can pull from here, and it doesn't look like there is, unfortunately. So this may be one of those situations where you're kind of, for lack of a better word, you're kind of screwed. There's not a whole lot you can do here, but here's what I am going to do. I'm going to export this as a PNG and export the whole thing, and I want to make sure that we have the right size. So I'm going to do 512, and that gives me a really long one, but that's okay because we're going to be cropping things. So I'll export that, and we'll put that. That we'll just leave it like that since it's a PNG. All right, so we'll get this out of the way, and we'll open up the PNG in Affinity Photo. So now I'm just going to crop part of this. Now you'll see that it's a little bit, it's grabbing this information here, and I don't necessarily want that, but that's okay because here's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to crop it as it is. And I'm going to take my eyedropper tool and grab this gray color. You can see that it grabbed it up here in the color palette. And then I'm just going to, let's see, I'm going to grab the shape tool down here. Oops. This shape tool, this rectangle tool, and I'm just going to do this. So that covers all of that up. Now I can save this as an Affinity photo file, but for demo purposes, I'm not going to. Instead, I'm just going to go ahead and export this as a PNG. This is 512 by 512, this is fine. Now, is this the best Favicon in the world? No, but it's gonna serve fine for our purposes. So I'll just do cropped here, and we'll get rid of this. All right, so then for our next one, we did 228, so now we're on 288. Now this one is gonna be a little bit more difficult. So let's go ahead and open this up in Affinity Designer. And it looks like we can actually grab this, but we can't grab the whole, just this piece of the black background. What do we do here? That is a really good question. I think if I had more time, I would probably try and get this to match as best as I can. So instead what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select this logo Ipsum part and just delete it. And now I've got the black part selected. And what I'm gonna do is use my, this tool here, I don't even know what it's called, the node tool, okay. I think that's probably good enough. So what we need to do is actually export this. So let's go ahead and export it as a PNG, and actually I think we can change this artboard if I'm not mistaken. Or we can just make the artboard like this. There we go. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is actually increase the size just to fill out the artboard a little bit. And there we go, it's centered. So now we can export this whole artboard as a PNG, but we want to make sure it's the right size. So we'll do 512. So this is a little bit uneven. It's not a perfect square, which is fine. So instead, because this is less than 512, I'm going to go ahead and make it 512. So that'll make it a little bit longer or wider than it needs to be, but that's okay. So we'll export that, and we'll just leave it there, and we'll just do cropped. Okay, now that's done. We don't need to save that. So let's go ahead and do this last one. So we'll open this up in Affinity Photo. And so what can we do here? We can do a number of things. We can make this a square so that the whole word, because it is a relatively short word, we can make it fit into the square, but it's still gonna be really teeny. So I think the better approach here is to just use the Z for the favicon. So to do that, I'm gonna use the crop tool, and I'm gonna move this over. And what you'll see once I hit return is that Affinity Photo is by default going to increase the artboard to the left. So this black area here is gonna become transparent and part of the artwork. So you'll see that that's what happened. So now I can actually, it's not letting me move it for some reason. Oh, it's because it's locked, okay. So it's still there technically, but that's okay, because what we're gonna do is we're gonna increase the size. And then what I wanna do is I'm going to select all of this as far back as I can. I guess it won't let me go beyond the artboard, which is normal. I think Photoshop does the same thing. So I'm just gonna delete that. So now we have this Z here, and we're just gonna move it up a bit just to center it. Okay, perfect, good enough. So now we're gonna export that. It's 600 by 600, that's fine. Let's export it, and we'll just do cropped. Okay, so now that that's all done, we can close up Affinity Photo. So I'm actually going to open up Firefox here. There are two websites that I've used that make this really easy. This first one is favicon.io. Now this one is really simple, and it's great if you have just an image or simple text, or if you want to use an emoji, you can, with the image option, you can upload your own image and it works fine. However, I find that there's another one that's a little bit more comprehensive and covers more of your bases. So we're gonna skip this one, and we're gonna go to Real Favicon Generator. So the reason that I like this one better is because, like I mentioned, it covers all of your bases. So it creates all the different icon types that you need, all the icon formats. So what we want to do is we're going to drop our favicon image here. So going back into the Finder, let's go ahead and start with this one. And we're just going to drop it there. So now this is what's really cool about it. You have all these different options. So here we have our classic. So we can see what it might look like in a browser with a light theme or a dark theme. So here, with the options we have, we can use the icon as is. You can add a plain background if you wanted, but you can also change the brightness. So you can make it darker, or like if you wanted to just go black, or make have it be the original. So for this, I'm just going to use the icon as is, and we're going to move on to the Apple Touch icon. So here you can see that the edges are touching. So we're going to, instead of use the icon as is, I'm going to add a plain background and margins. So we can play around with the image size, and I actually like it right about there, maybe a little bit smaller. That looks really good. And we want to give the app a name. So this was, what was it called? Avon. Okay, so we'll do Avon. Now the next one is the web app manifest, which is good for Android. So we can use the icon as is, but you can see that here it doesn't look so great. So we're going to do the same thing that we did with the iOS version. We're going to add a plain background and margin, and I think that image size is fine, so we'll leave that there. And here we'll put in Avon again, and also here. All right, so the next step is to determine where we're going to put our favicons. Now, some people just stick them all in as the individual little files that get created. They'll stick them in the web root, which I personally don't like. I like to put them in a folder. They still work as a folder as long as you have your paths correct. So what I do is I create a folder called favicon, and then I click next. All right, so here is where all of the magic happens. So you can now download your favicon package. So I'm going to download this here to my downloads folder, and then it gives you the code to use. Now that we have all of this, we're going to keep this page open because we're going to need this code in a little bit. So I'm going to go back to the Finder, and I've cheated a little bit. I now have a demo website set up. I actually set it up beforehand, but I'm showing it here now. And so let's open this up in VS Code, if it'll actually do it. There we go. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to grab this favicon and put it in here, but I'm going to unzip it first and then move this folder into the demo website. So now if we go back to VS Code, we can see we have the favicon in there. And here's my index file, which is where it's going to go. Wherever your head is for your HTML, that's where it's going to go. Now, where exactly in here you want to put it is pretty much entirely up to you. I like to put it basically right after the fonts, sometimes before the fonts, but after the SEO. So normally there would be, after the title, there would be some SEO tags. So I put it in here. So we're going to go into Firefox again, and we're going to take a look at this code, and we're going to copy it, and then come in here and paste it, and we'll just clean up the formatting a bit. And so you can see that it's got the path as favicon for each one. And so let's save this and see if this actually works. So we'll go in here, and I'm actually going to turn this on. I'm going to go live, and you can see that the favicon now shows up. Now, in order to keep this video short, I feel like it's already a little bit too long. I'm going to skip doing this for the other icons because it's literally the same process. And really that's it. That is how I do this for pretty much every website that I build. There have been one or two that I've forgotten and I end up doing it later, but it's just something that it takes literally 5 to 10 minutes at most, and that's kind of embellishing a little bit. But it's really important for your site, for your client sites. It's a nice little added touch. So what about you? What is your method of generating favicons? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next time.